Welcome to the Meltzone Podcast. This is episode 44 from March 29th, 2021. I'm Tom.
And I'm Stefan. And on today's podcast episode, we talk about our new logo, lots of, YouTube-related stuff, the pigs moving semi-open source approach for self-driving vehicles. Lulzbot has announced they have teased a new 3D printer starting as low as $750. And finally, the last patent from Stratasys concerning the heated chamber finally expired. And we really look forward to seeing this one implemented in, newer printers.
What we're also really looking forward to seeing implemented in newer slicers is the fact that you can now download a usable version of the conical slicing approach that I think we talked about last time. There is now a open source software that you can try this out on with your own printers. For the topic of the week, for the big topic, we finally have one of those again. Stefan called this Some Think We Are Geniuses. I would call it Some Think We Are Genies. We talk about how we can offer help to, people who need assistance with their printers in an efficient way without it taking up our whole time. So, that's something that we don't have good solutions for, but we try to solve it anyways. And, in an effort to try to get there, we do answer one question as well about PLA and how it's annealed and why it doesn't soften in tea water. Whoops, I just took the answer ahead of time there. But let's get started with the episode. We have a new logo. We have something, you got us a new logo made.
So
it's been time.
It was, I think, about time, because we're just about to reach 10,000 subscribers on the podcast. Yay! And
6,000 of those are carried over from my Tom's 3D Live channel that this channel used to be.
Yeah, but they didn't unsubscribe, so
some of them did, but I don't blame them for that.
A bunch of them did. They were, I think, kind of they didn't know what was happening. Why are they?
Why did they subscribe to a podcast channel?
Channel. I hate podcasts.
Oh well, they're lost.
Yeah. We're approaching 10,000 subscribers, and the podcast, the views, and also the subscribers have been growing really, really well over the last, let's say, 3 months or something like that. Starting from January. And I thought it was finally the time to invest some money and get a new logo made. So I think the first one that was made, you're
on very thin ice right now. That how much love I put into that logo.
Yeah, you put much love in that logo. Mm-hmm. It was still, I guess, during that time when we did not even have recorded the first podcast episode, and you just scribbled that up, and it kind of stuck for the last 43 podcast episodes. It was okay, but people suggested that it somehow looks like,
which was intentional, I guess.
Yeah,
I guess if we had a microphone up there instead of a nozzle, it would have made even more sense, considering what this format was set out to be. Yeah, but you got that professionally made on Fiverr.
Professionally made on Fiverr. Yeah, I think I got 2 or 3 logos made for $20-30 or something like that, and one of them didn't look that bad. And so far,
they all looked really decent, but I guess this is the one that stood out, I guess.
Yeah. So I hope everyone who is listening or watching that right now also appreciates the beautiful new logo. And if not, please let us know.
Yeah.
We won't change it again for the next 43 episodes.
Yeah, should we do a shorts or a YouTube story about changing the logo?
Yeah, be my guest.
I tried that shorts. Have you ever tried shorts on YouTube?
I have not tried shorts. I was actually preparing some things to put on shorts, but in the end, I wasn't sure how it resonated with my audience.
Yeah.
And also, I realized that even though shorts might gain hundreds, thousands, or millions of views, you don't really make any revenue with it. So I thought,
it's
okay,
not
it's
monetized. The thing how YouTube promotes shorts or stories and shorts, why do they have both? But the way that they promote those non-monetized pieces of content to creators to incentivize them to, hey, maybe you should make a story, is, some channels gained like 1,000 subscribers just from the stories that they posted, or from the shorts, I guess. And for that, I think it would be really nice, because shorts and stories are getting promoted the crap out of them by YouTube. Though honestly, I've not had the shorts bar on my YouTube app recently. It's just shown up yesterday again. But yeah, it's just a way to kind of promote your channel, and we've seen with Mars Gizmo like how well that works if you have content that is short and gets promoted by the platform.
Yeah.
The thing is, shorts are like they're like a black hole of information. There is no information from YouTube about shorts. It says, I've actually tweeted about it, and YouTube got back to me at Team YouTube. I was like, hey, use the shorts camera in your YouTube app. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, I'm not in North America, which is the only place in the world that has the shorts feature enabled in the YouTube app, so I can't use that. They're like, well, just use #shorts in your title or description, and it must be under 60 seconds, and it must be vertical video. But I don't think the video that I posted got picked up as a shorts. Because there's no way to check if YouTube thinks this is a shorts. And the views are horrible on that, which, I mean, if I would have posted that as a normal video, I would have expected that, because it's a 1-minute video about what happens when your Autodesk subscription runs out. So, but like, I was hoping it would be picked up as shorts, but I have no idea if it did.
So, well, I already told you that I talked to Mars Gizmo, to Adrian, about all of that shorts thing and TikTok and everything that is connected with those short videos. And he said that it usually takes 2, 3, 5 days or even a week that shorts get picked up by the algorithm.
Okay, so you just post them into the void, and at some time the void answers to you? Okay.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see, because usually, for everyone who has never posted a YouTube video and has a couple of subscribers, so usually if you post a video, you have the most views over the first, I'd say, 3 to 5 hours.
Pretty much.
So the average, And on shorts, it's really different, as Adrian said. So it doesn't have this big bump in the beginning. It just like gradually grows, and then at some point, at least in the past, shorts like took off a lot. But I think that always depends on how much YouTube is promoting them at the moment.
Okay.
And I don't know if they are still promoting it as much as they did like 3, 4, 5 months back.
Which is fantastic, because like, okay, we're promoting it, but only for North American creators, and now it's available for international creators, but like, we're not really going to do anything for it anymore. Like, you guys, I don't have a bleep button, but yes, you guys can get...
The thing is, so you posted a shorts video, you will get the same analytics for this shorts video as for any other video, probably.
I suppose, yeah.
Because
to me, it looks like a regular video, just one that's like in a weird aspect ratio.
Okay. Because I have been experimenting with stories last week, and I will also post, I hope, a new story like right after the podcast recording. And the thing that really annoyed me, that despite viewers and gained subscribers, you don't get any analytics from a story.
I thought you got at least some basic analytics, like number of views and subscribers gained from that.
Yeah, just number of views.
But it's not, it's just a single number, not the graph and development and stuff.
And it's not even dedicated for a single shorts video. It just tells you, okay, in the last 7 days, you got these many, or I think in the last 28 days. Yeah. In the last 28 days, how many have viewed your story and how many subscribers have you gained that way?
Okay, I guess that kind of does make sense, because a story, is it a short and shorts, or is it stories and YouTube?
It's weird, yeah.
Yeah, but the stories is supposed to be like one continuous story of what you're doing, what you're working on, I guess. And it's never like one single video that got the attention, because it's on autoplay, right? You upload one 60-second story.
15 second.
15? Is it really limited to 15? Wow.
It's 15. Yeah, I think one story is 15 seconds.
Okay. I thought it was a bit longer than it, but okay, you upload one story and you show one bit, and then like 15 minutes or an hour later you post the next bit, and that like seamlessly attaches to the first one and continues that. So I guess story isn't really like one single piece of content.
No.
But yeah, YouTube, I mean, I wish they would just do less features and actually do them better, do them to their full extent, to their full potential. Because right now we have stories, which is a cheap knockoff of Instagram stories, and we have shorts, which is a cheap knockoff of TikTok, and neither one is really all that great for creators. It doesn't feel like it's finished. But yeah,
I think that's one of the big Google problems. If you just take a look at how many of their products they're discontinuing every year and how many they just get on the market, it often seems that they don't really have a big plan what they're doing. They just have a bunch of ideas. They put them out into the wild, and the ones which stick, they will also stay available, and the other ones, they will be discontinued after a couple of years or months. And on the how many like chats or
chat, video chats and
application are we already? I think we started with it was Google Talk at first, then it was Hangouts, now it's Meets.
Then Hangout for Business, there's Allo, there's, what's the other one?
Why?
What's the Allo is the text one, and then there's a video one as well. And those have been discontinued. No, one of them is still around, and now Hangouts is being phased out, and that's a problem. Google Plus, I mean, obviously is the most obvious one for me. I started my social media adventures on Google Plus. I started my YouTube channel on Google Plus in that community, and that just got canceled because like they weren't interested in maintaining it anymore. Yeah, so I don't know. Let's see what else they come with. Maybe they're gonna bring out something that makes podcasts on YouTube more watchable, more. Well, I guess people are watching them, so it can't be that bad. But maybe they're gonna bring out a feature specifically for that.
Yeah,
I don't know. How do we get here? No, new logo. Okay.
New logo.
Okay. So yeah, hopefully, I mean, you guys will have seen it already. Hopefully, I put the new logo in the intro of this episode, and it should also show up in all the podcatchers and on YouTube as the channel icon.
I checked that already. I think at least Google Podcast shows it already.
Nice. Where is it getting that from? Is that through the
from
metadata?
the RSS feed, from the metadata of the podcast on the WordPress blog.
Podcast, man. What a weird format.
Yeah.
Speaking of format, let's stick to our format and talk about the next news topic. A semi-open source electric self-driving vehicle platform concept.
Tell me more.
Okay, so I mean, these are topics that we put in here quite a while ago. I think I put this one in. That got promoted quite a bit as like, oh, look, we now have an open source vehicle that we can build. It's called Pix Moving, and they've got like a bunch of different platforms. They've got the Pix Loop, which is a super simple chassis. They've got the hook. They've got the Boar, which is like a metal 3D printed chassis. They've got Plank, which is like a super tall skateboard platform. So this obviously this got promoted the crap out of it on Twitter. People were reposting or resharing that left and right, and it looked like, wow, this would be a big thing. But you dig into these, oh, we're doing fully 3D printed cars as we've seen before, and it's like, oh, well, we're not. We're maybe printing the frame, and everything else is still like traditional. Basically, they're just taking out some steelwork. In this case, they're saying, oh, it's open source and it's partially 3D printed as well. It's not really open source. So, I mean, what they're posting here with the Pixloop and what they're promoting here with the Pixloop is basically saying, oh yeah, you can access some of the open source stuff, but you're gonna have to order our kits to actually use it. What's weirding me out about this this project is if you click the video that I've linked here, maybe you can tell me if this looks real to you. I can't click that video right now for whatever reason.
Yeah, it was weird for me as well.
So, audio.
Oh.
So, what they're showing here looks like a completely fake CGI rendering. Like, the shadow looks way too crisp, the movement looks way too smooth. Like, this looks very fake to me. Or at least, I mean, fake in the sense of, yes, this might be rendered, but also fake in the sense of this isn't, like, that they're saying this is autonomous, this is driving itself, but it is actually, it looks remote control.
Okay.
Like, it looks 100% like, a dude just off camera with a remote control just controlling that thing.
So yeah, talking about 3D printing, it might be an interesting approach to basically what's that, direct energy deposition, DDM, direct digital manufacture. So basically wire arc welding a chassis for the car, and also with all of the customization you can have that way. Buzzword. But I'm always asking myself, if you already just take a look at the state of autonomous driving at the moment and what kind of amount of work that is involved in the not only the evaluation of the algorithms, but also the certification that you can't only use that in their
on their test
closed
tracks.
industrial park, is something where I don't know if something like that could really take off.
I mean, look at Tesla and how much effort they've put into their autopilot and how janky it still is. I mean, they've got the new full self-driving or city self-driving or whatever it's called in closed beta or open beta. I don't know what the state is right now, and it still makes pretty drastic mistakes. I mean, but for all intents and purposes, it is doing really well for the complexity of the task. But it's still at a point where, yeah, at some point it's just going to run into another car or run a pedestrian over.
Yeah,
it's not, and that is a monstrous effort by someone like Tesla that they put in.
Do you know if there are any other commercial cars on the market that have well, in Germany, you're not allowed to call it autopilot.
Yeah.
Another self-driving solution that is just, I don't know, closely similar to what Tesla is offering?
I mean, Tesla is going very, very aggressively forward with what they are actually implementing. A lot of manufacturers have the ability to do self-driving that is, I guess, not competitive with what Tesla's doing, but at least, highway self-driving with lane changes and taking on and off ramps and that sort of thing. But as far as I know, what's actually out there, Mercedes is doing some pretty high-level stuff, as far as I know, and Audi maybe as well. BMW just has simple lane keep, as far as I'm aware. But like, they've all shown that they can do more than what's being implemented right now. I still remember, I think it was either Honda or Toyota that showed off a very impressive self-driving demo a year or 2 years ago. where I was like, wow, this is actually really good. So everyone's kind of working on it, but like you said, especially in Germany, you can't legally put that into a car and put it out on the public road yet. And
certification liability
is going to be a while.
Yeah, I always think about this. I don't know, is it called train track problem, where you have
the trolley problem?
The trolley problem, yeah. So if you either have the possibility to drive yourself into another car or steer to the right and hit somebody else, what should the car do, and who's later responsible for that accident? If the car decided that, is it the programmer, is it the car company, is it you because you were sitting in there? And
right now it's still you as the driver. You're still fully responsible for everything.
Yeah
Well, I mean, trolley problems are hard. I could go into a huge rant about how the current German corona politics are basically trolley problem, where you're saying, oh, let's not do anything, which is the worst possible choice. But that would be a whole episode about that.
No.
But
people would be tuning off right away.
Yep. Okay, so self-driving cars, they're cool. I do see an application for that, for like those little delivery vehicles, where you have low speeds, where you're driving on, I don't know, bike tracks, maybe bike lanes. I don't know if that's a good idea. Sidewalks, something where you're not like in high speed traffic. I think that would be a good start to get something out there first.
Yeah.
But is this Pix moving platform that? I don't think so. It seems like one of those things that gets really hyped up, and then it's just at the concept stage. I don't know. Are they looking for VC?
I don't know. Maybe Amazon delivery drones are taken over, because before self-driving cars become a real feasible thing.
Yeah, we're gonna have the Amazon Zeppelins dispatching the little drones on. Which, I mean, would be pretty efficient and cool, actually, but
you basically have kind of the same problem if you're talking about like air taxis. How are air taxis getting regulated? Yeah, around Munich, there's at least one or even two companies that are doing air taxis. Is it Velo 3? No, it's not Velo. Volocopter. Yeah. I'm really not sure how that's gonna work, at least in like the European airspace for the moment. But they seem to look into like deals with one of the southeast, like one of the Gulf states, to have it in one of the big like oil cities.
Yeah, they seem to be pretty keen on scooping up innovations and having it in their city as just basically showing, oh, look at what we can do.
Yeah.
Speaking of aerial vehicles, like what you have a drone license. You have a commercial drone license, right?
Yes, I do.
Is that still applicable with the new EU-wide, I think, drone regulation? So you can still fly under the same circumstances, I guess?
So I am not 100% sure at the moment. I know that something changed. I have an email from the Deutsche Modellflugverband in my inbox that I haven't properly read so far. I know that I have to register at the Luftfahrtbundesamt.
As a pilot or with your aerial vehicle?
I think maybe even both. So I think I am already registered at the Luftfahrtbundesamt with my commercial drone license that I did last year. But yeah, this is still one thing I need to take a look at. So there are some newer regulations in that direction, just to homogenize the field of like rules and regulations for drone flying, which is kind of good, because also with the EASA you have basically one big agency that is over the whole like domestic authorities, and it would be a pity.
From what I've read with the new regulations, it's actually making things easier for the sort of stuff that I would be doing. So like self-built planes, 3D printed planes. I mean, I have you've flown that. I have my wing, which is it's a bit heavier than 250 grams, so it does fall into it's a model aircraft and not a toy drone class anymore. But now, because it's home built and it's a DIY project, it's actually way less strictly
regulated.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Than if you just bought like an Inspire or something. So there is also a new type of license that you can and have to get to fly those airplanes, and it is actually way cheaper. I think it's like just a multiple choice test that you take. It's like $40 or $50 or something. You do it online, and that's it. You also have to get that engraved aluminum plaque with your name and address on there. You have to put that on your aircraft, but it actually made stuff easier. I think. So.
And I'm still thinking that it is a good thing that people who fly those drones or even self-built planes, they have some kind of a knowledge what they are allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do, because too many things have happened in the past, like people flying their drones over near the airport, or even there are lots of non-commercial small airports around here where you do glider flying and things like that. And I have seen many people who just flew their drone there 200 meters up and then almost crashing with one of those gliders because I took that with me home from work over the weekend. We have one of those cool Inspire drones there. No, you almost crashed in one of those planes. It's good that there are regulations, and they're necessary nowadays. That this is that you can buy your drone at Aldi.
It does feel like it's just it's holding stuff back, and it's kind of painful to actually follow all those. But at some point, they do make sense. I think right now they're like a reasonable level. Like I know I can't fly like next to the nuclear power plant. Which should be obvious. It's
still in operation.
I think it's going to shut down by the end of this year.
Okay.
They've been building back like everything step by step, but I can't fly there. Power lines are a no-go. There are reservates, natural protection areas, which are pretty wide.
Highways.
Yes, highways, of course. All those, and there's apps and stuff for that just give you a map. Hey, you can fly here, you can't fly here, and so that's something that I might do sometime this year. Get a proper insurance, get the license to fly my drone, even though it just has return to home and like some assist features. It's the model airplane with drone features. I guess it qualifies as a drone. Just do that, know you're on the safe side, and just be safe there.
Have you been flying your drone or your wing recently?
It's been like half a year.
Okay. I'm currently listening to an audiobook. Kelly Clark's
podcast is not sponsored by Audible,
but it's not sponsored by Audible, even though I might use that app. From Kelly Johnson, who was was basically the founder of Skunkworks from Lockheed Martin, and he was also one of the guys behind the Lockheed P-38 Lightning, where 3D Lab Print has an amazing 3D printable model of that plane. The plane itself is so beautiful. And I haven't been flying for a while, but I'm really thinking about printing that out. And even if I only just put it on the wall, but it's such a beautiful plane. I already have the Messerschmitt, and I printed that out of transparent PLA, and just seeing the internal structure of that plane is so beautiful. And the P-38 Lightning is even more beautiful. It's huge. I think you need 1.5 kilos of PLA to print that. But
that's not that much.
Currently, I'm really thinking about starting that project, even though I might not have the time for it.
Starting projects is always easy. Finishing them is the hard part.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the printable models, you have all the internal ribbing in the wings and stuff that is, especially if you use transparent PLA, like that's all visible. That is really nice.
Yeah.
I just like going fast.
Yeah.
You didn't get to see my wing in action, but I think even since then I put in the new ESC or something. I think top speed was like 208 kilometers an hour. But that is including full dive bomb and pulling up. Where you can literally see the wing flex, like, yeah, really fun.
During the old days of RC flying, there were a couple of years. I think it was just before the GoPros got really popular. There were the so-called, I think were called key cams, which was like the size of a car key. Cameras.
Those like spy cam
things. But they were perfectly suitable to put on airplanes, and I enjoyed it so much just putting them at the vertical stabilizer of my airplane, and just also seeing the wings of my plane deform during dives, and
yeah, quite fascinating stuff. Yeah, thankfully the weather's getting better now, and it's nice and sunny out. So yeah, going out there, flying some more, and maybe doing some projects around that is going to be something that may or may not be coming up.
Go ahead. Yeah. Maybe talking about 3D printing.
Wow.
Wasn't the podcast all about 3D printing? No.
It's not anymore.
3D printing and affordable 3D printers. Lulzbot has, I think they only teased it so far, but they teased a new 3D printer starting as low as $750. So you have a Lulzbot printer, I think.
I have a original Mini, yes, that I've put a Mini 3D Titan on there. So it's lightly modded, but yes.
How is that interesting that Lulzbot is also, well, it's even not the cheap price segment, but they are starting to offer machines at a lower, more affordable price.
Yeah, I guess for a bit of context around Lulzbot, I mean, Lulzbot was one of the first or very early manufacturer of 3D printers. They've always designed their stuff from the ground up. They've never made. Oh no, they have made like an i3 style machine at some point, though that's not in production anymore. Might be a revival of that. But Lulzbot have their Mini and they have the Taz, which are premium priced machines. Let's put it like that. They're quite expensive for what they are, but they've always been. For the time, they've not seen too many updates, unfortunately, or not many modernizations. They've seen continuous upgrades, but they're still at their base, that original printer from 5 years ago. They've always been reliable, good printers, but they've just been really expensive for what they were. I do like my Lulzbot Mini. I've not used it in a while, but when I used it, I did like it a lot. And what makes them unique is they're in the US. They do a lot of manufacturing in the US, and they're also very much about being open source. So actually, if they still do that, you could actually go into their production server and into their production file system and stuff, and just look through their project, and maybe you're gonna find it. They used to do that where they had all their company files, except for I guess legal and tax stuff, all their engineering files. They just had it on a publicly accessible server.
So that's really interesting.
You could see both the machines that were already released, but you could also see the stuff that is being worked on. So I don't know, maybe that's still a thing. Maybe somebody wants to check and see if there might be something in there about that upcoming machine. So yeah, they are very much about being open source. I think the AO01, I think that was the i3 style machine. That one was certified by the Open Source Hardware Foundation. I think there was certificate number 0001, the very first machine that they certified. I believe that was the one. And yeah, very much open source, very much, hey, just we publish everything, go with that. So I guess you kind of have to put that in that context, that they're now announcing a $750 machine. What is the machine going to be? I don't know. It's it's very definitely going to be a cost down version of everything they've done so far, because for them $750 is like, you know, Creality is saying I'm going to make something for $120. I think that is the lowest they can reasonably go. And also what they're saying is as low as $750. Whew, that is a
without heated bed.
That not even that. I don't think it would be like a feature down version of the actual printer. It could be crowdfunding. It could be a printer that is like at a promotional early bird price at $750, but then when it's in full retail, it's $999. I think that is a more reasonable explanation, and people have been guessing what that could mean on Twitter as well. Which, you know, crowdfunding was one of the options that they brought up.
Yeah, so that's a really good point, because I more put it in the connection of with the least features you'll get it for $750, but as soon as you want to have a filament runout sensor, I don't know, a removable bed, it's gonna cost you more. But the question is if something like that is really a feasible option, all of that customizability, because that might add cost in the end. It might be cheaper to have a almost fully spec'd version and just sell that to a bit of a lower price to everyone.
Yeah, the thing is, you know, the exact wording as low as $750 makes me, because otherwise you just call it starting at $750.
Yeah,
you would say starting at, if it's a regular price, starting at $750. If it's as low as, it's like you can now get it as low as. Yeah, it's a limited time offer or something like that. So what would a $750 printer need to be able to do to be competitive? Like that's as much as a Prusa Mark III kit.
Yeah.
Right. So what would a $750 printer need to have as far as features and like reliability to be a worthy option in any circumstance?
Well, I think you at least need to have either better availability or at least as many features as a Mark III has, because I think that will be the direct competitor in the end. Well, what does it need to have? Of course, a 32-bit control board.
Those are just cheaper now, so no reason to not use them.
Yeah. Hopefully it's silent. Hopefully it's at least a bit smart in a way that you have, I don't know, filament runout detection or what?
Right, you're just listing off features of the $150 printer class right now. So there's nothing unique about having those features. Those are just any printer at any price point should have those, I think.
Of course, but what I'm expecting from a machine that I'm buying from Lulzbot or a US manufacturer, I want to have something reliable. I don't want to buy a project. I want to buy a tool. I, at least in some way, would like to have an ecosystem that is working well, and only if it's like an ecosystem where they are working together. I don't know, they have their parameters implemented in Prusa Slice or Cura or some other software where you don't have to mess around with who has the best parameters for the Ender 3.
Yeah,
kind of a thing.
That for sure. Now, I guess one point I want to make is the one of the reasons why the Prusa machines are like so good and why I keep going back to those, even though it seems to be something that some people just don't understand because they've never used one and they keep calling me a shill, but whatever. The reason why I keep going back to the Prusa machines is because it's the details. It's like so polished, even though it's super basic hardware. And there's on paper, there's like nothing in the specs that would make this an outstanding machine, but it's just everything you try to do works as intended. And there's no, I have to like fiddle around with that to get into that menu, even at that level. Even like the preheat sequences, the priming sequences, the filament load, unload, the way that they've actually pushed a feature to the Mark III series of printers where they're using one extra feature of the trinamic drivers that I guess tunes it better to the motors they're using. So that that level of attention to detail that is hard to convey in a video, that is impossible to convey in a spec sheet. Like that is something that I expect out of a good printer. Because on paper, with features like we've got sound steppers, we've got a flex bed, we've got I don't know, even an all metal hot, and like, yes, sure, you can put that on a spec sheet, you can put that on a printer, but that doesn't make a printer a great machine.
Yeah, I always call my Prusa my fire and forget machine.
Yeah.
I have my SD card put into the machine, hit print, close the door behind me, and I know when I come back 3 hours later, I have a part on the printing platform. And this is what makes that printer so useful for me, because I use it as a tool and I don't want to fiddle around with it. I don't want to watch the first layer all of the time. I don't want to fiddle around with print settings and stuff like that. Everything just works together. And as you just said, they're not only like throwing together a bunch of really cool features, they're doing it in a way that it makes the product better in the end as well. Yeah. All of those parts together. And this is also what I would expect from a Lulzbot, because the Lulzbot, they are not the like really hobby starting machine. They are at least in the semi-professional range. And just as with the Prusa Mini, I think they also want to have a machine that is in the more affordable range, and in the range where somebody says, okay, instead of buying a $500 Chinese machine, I spent $800, $900 for a US manufactured machine because I want to use this thing later as a tool.
Yeah. I guess we should also acknowledge the fact that educational use, as in schools or universities buying these, has a whole different set of requirements and whole set of different requirements and just conditions on whether you are allowed by your institution to buy that machine at all. So for schools, that automatically disqualifies like anything that is most of the time anything that is not US made for US schools, because you need to have the certificates, you need to have the safety, the reliability assured by the manufacturer, and you can't really do that with an import machine. Prusa printers are struggling with that as well, as far as I know. So yeah, in that market, a $750 printer from Lulzbot could do pretty well. Yeah. Well,
so we'll see. Did they announce when we'll get more details? Soon. When it's done.
Well, I would hope that it's when it's done. Nobody wants to see an unfinished printer or an unfinished product in any case out of there. So,
cool. Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. Maybe let's talk about the next topic, which
not quite printers for schools, but printers for real applications.
Yeah. So I think finally one of the last patents on heated build chambers for 3D printers that was filed by Stratasys more than 20 years ago expired, which is cool. Finally. Which opens up even more opportunities for heated chambers, even though I am not always deeming them totally necessary for the stuff that we print nowadays. But I think we have talked about that a bunch of times already, and I think also already when the last ones ran out. But I'm not 100% sure, but I think this one is about like the curtain design they are using on the upper half of the printer, where they isolate more or less the electronics from the building chamber.
Well, not quite. It's how they seal the chamber from the outside, I guess. So you have moving parts, like in that case in the patent, it looks like a Core XY or an HBot setup. How you seal off that surface where you have your moving parts to the outside.
This is basically what I meant, but I think the reason why they are doing this is because they don't want to have, for example, the stepper motors in the hot chamber environment, or like the cold side of the hot end of the extruder, that this one also doesn't need to be water cooled, for example. And other companies for the last years who have been producing like commercial 3D printers with heated chambers, they have been, well, they needed to work around that. And with that patent finally running out, also other companies can use that really neat approach.
Yeah, I have seen concepts by established 3D printer component manufacturers that worked around that exact patent, that had a good solution that made that exact patented bit of the printer, that those, what are those called? Not bell.
It's not corrugated. It looks like, so for all of the listeners, so what they're basically doing, they have a Core XY or HBot, like 3D printer top, and in between the empty spaces, they put a kind of fabric material that can move with the print head and basically like dynamically seals the stuff that is above that surface to the heated chamber that is below that.
So it's an accordion style. Yeah, baffle, something like that. So that exact mechanism that you're having, that accordion rubber part, that's what's expiring right now. The fact that you could build a fully enclosed and heated chamber, I think that's expired a year or two ago. So that's been out there. You could do that, but you still needed to invent your own solution for sealing that, and companies have done that. But I don't think I've seen it commercialized yet. And yeah, like you said, this is that actual part, that last piece of the puzzle, basically.
Yeah. And it's so I have seen that. Well, I have seen workarounds where companies just water cooled the stepper motors, for example.
Yeah, so you don't need those flexible seals.
Exactly. But this is a really simple and also neat solution, which I'm looking forward to see also on other machines being implemented, because that really opens up the opportunity to have a really easily heated chamber, and all of the other stuff can basically stay the same. So if you have a simple and cheap solution to make that accordion fabric thing, which is also
you can buy those. Those are standard components for like CNC access covers.
Yeah.
You can buy those ready made. I don't know if they're like if they're up to the temperatures that are being used, but it's just one component that is readily available that you put onto machine, and that's what's been patented.
And to be totally honest, in the end, the temperatures you're usually talking about, even for peak printing, 100, 150 degrees, maybe sometimes 200 degrees is enough, and most materials that are maybe used in the applications already might be able to cope with that.
I guess, especially when you have ambient temperature on the other side of that.
Yeah.
If you have that accordion style material, like one side is going to be cooled by ambient air, so the other side is not going to get as hot. So, yeah, really cool stuff. I just want to see it, just make 3D printing larger parts just a bit easier, because right now, with the printers we have, like 200 by 200, 300 by 300, you can still manage warp even with PTG, but it's like 300 is at the edge of what's reasonable to do. You really need to make sure that your part geometry is right, that your ambient temperature is high enough. So this studio is usually pretty cool. So I do get some issues with warping here and there, and that your bed adhesion is like really good. And by eliminating that need for really good bed adhesion, you allow more geometries to be printed with the higher temperature materials.
Yeah.
So it just makes 3D printing more capable.
And maybe also like the health and safety aspect. It allows you to easily vent the nasty gases that are created in the chamber, and either vent them outside or just put them through a filter. If you have an open design, it's always getting
pretty
everywhere.
hard. Yeah. This CR30 that I've got next to me right here that you can't unfortunately see on. Maybe you can see it on camera if I switch. Yeah, you can kind of see it. The belt, because it's this rubberized material, is really smelly, and I don't know what it's off gassing. So I don't know. Having an enclosed printer seems really really enticing right now. So.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do the next one quickly before we jump into the big topic of the week. You guys can now print the 90-degree overhangs without support structures with a non-planar slicer. We've talked about this before, I believe, on the podcast, where the University of Zurich, the ZHAW, the University of Applied Sciences Zurich, was publishing a paper on non-planar slicing that is doing like conical slicing. Really fascinating concept. And there is now a slicer by someone who was not involved with that paper. There's now a slicer that implements that exact approach.
Yeah. The guy is called René. Wait a second.
René K. Müller.
René K. Müller. On his website xyzdims.com. He has been, well, I think, posting about his progress in implementing that conical or non-planar slicing approach over the last months, and there is now finally a released script that you can use to basically slice simple overhanging structures in a way that you have this not only conical printing approach, but even like non-planar printing approach, which is really nice. And I'm really hoping that something like that in an even more polished manner, where it's applicable for more complex structures, it is something that might be the next evolution or revolution in 3D printing slicers. Yeah. Maybe Simplified 3D version 5 will implement that, and that's the reason why they're taking so long.
For sure. So this script that he released is called Slicer for RTN, and it's not a slicer by itself. It's a wrapper for other slices. So it supports Slick3R, the original Slick3R it produced. It supports Prusa Slicer and Cura Engine. He says not yet, but I thought I read about how Cura Engine is weird in one way. But yeah, it's basically for classic Slick3R that you wrap Slick3R in his Slicer for RTN script.
What does wrapper mean? Does that only mean, okay, he basically did a scripting approach where he at first modifies the geometry and then puts modified geometry into the slicer and then modifies the G-code in the end again to get it back to a standard XYZ coordinate system? I
would believe so, yes.
Okay.
So it's similar to the way that the 45-degree belt printing works, where you distort your STL first, and then the printer in this case, in the belt case, undistorts your G-code. But I guess in his case, it's he's actually doing that as well as a post-processing script, and then the printer actually moves in the Z direction in real time.
And that's really cool, because one of the reasons why I never got into non-planar 3D printing and played around with it was because I think the version of Slick3R that was available where this was implemented was Linux only, and I think you even had to compile it yourself, and I'm just...
Right. Which I did. Okay. I went through that process, and I figure out in the end, well, it's not that powerful. It doesn't actually do all of that much. So it worked in a few select cases, and it did something in those few cases, but as soon as you had like any sort of real world application, it was just not very, it didn't make a difference in it didn't even start applying the non-planar finishing surfaces in those cases.
Yeah, it was a proof of concept, but
right,
it's cool to see that now, the even more interesting application being implemented where this allows you to print even steeper overhangs.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like 2 or 3 months ago, Prusa asked on Twitter, "Hey, what features would you like to see in Prusa Slice?" And I was like, "Well, maybe we're gonna see some basic non-planar slicing." And it was like, we'll do some other stuff first.
Yeah.
And here we go again. I would like to see at least a basic implementation of non-planar slicing implemented in some slicer that you can use.
Because I think we are currently more or less at the point, or at least from my view, where revolutions in slicing aren't happening that often anymore, and it's hard to revolutionize slicers, and most of the features have already been implemented in Prusa Slicer, Cura, or Idea Maker. One really cool feature I was really happy to see, and I did not have in my head, was the implementation of that Idea Maker just recently put into
the texturing feature.
The texturing feature, which is really, really cool, and I definitely need to try that out.
Yeah.
But otherwise, Cura implemented a new slicing engine for thin parts. That is really interesting, but that just small tiny bits. We're
at that level of slicing itself is good enough. It is so good that it's perfectly usable for 99.5% of applications.
Yeah.
What is happening right now is just more usability and having smarter features in there, like the Prusa Slicer auto align tool or lay flat tool. You pick a side, you click that, it lays it flat on the. So good. I miss that every time I have to use Cura. Stuff like that. That's what still has a lot of potential right now, if you're just looking at what could a slicer do if it's not revolutionizing the slicing engine itself. But of course, there's still potential for those concepts that we saw just now with the non-planar stuff, for example. So yeah. Simplify,
if you're listening. Non-planar slicing.
They're not listening. They're blocking people on Twitter left and right. So
no comments allowed.
They're not. I mean, you're a Simplify user. I'm not.
I haven't been using Simplify for, I think, more than a year. The only reason, but this is also not necessary anymore. I have been using it a lot for G-code viewing, but the G-code viewing in Prusa Slicer is also really good.
Why do we always keep coming back to Prusa, man? It's like they're making an actual good product.
Yeah. A new car downstairs is definitely paid by Prusa. No, I don't have a new car.
I was wondering, what's this? You've not told me about that yet.
No. I was actually looking into, even though I don't need it, because I think I only drove, I don't know, not enough kilometers last year due to the pandemic. Like a Tesla Model S would be really nice, but leasing a Tesla Model S, because it's a nice car.
But why the Model S? You crazy? Are you made of money? That thing costs like a grand a month.
Yeah, exactly. That was my problem, and that it costs like $1,000 a month. They thought, okay, I think that's not worth it.
Nope. Even the Model 3 is pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Which is
you are an electric vehicle driver, and I have driven with yours, and I highly appreciate that you allowed me to do that. But I would really just like to know how a nice electric car works, like on a day-to-day basis. And why start with an electric Smart if you could lease a Tesla Model S?
I mean, what I've thought about is like instead of getting something like a stupid plug-in electric, do like, hey, have a nice wagon with a trailer hitch, I don't know, diesel or whatever, just for the bigger tasks, and then just get a Renault Twizy with that. Like, you've seen the Twizys, right?
Yes,
You'd get murdered in those on US roads, but in Germany they're fine.
They're fine, but I thought about them, but they're still not really economical in the end. And I would be scared driving one of those, because if somebody crashes into that side, I could even sit on a motorcycle. And one of the reasons why I don't drive motorcycles is because I like my life.
And you have a family now, and
my family. So no Twizy for me.
Okay. Oh, I guess it's a bit safer.
It's a bit safer, but still not totally safe.
But like just for the daily trips, for like going grocery shopping and going in. Well, but I mean, if you want to borrow the Peugeot for 2-3 weeks at some point, be my guest.
Maybe I'll rent a Tesla Model S for a week at some point.
Yeah. Man, we were gonna have that Model 3 for Murph last year.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Had to cancel that.
Maybe before we get to the last topic, Murph is still on, but I think it was shifted to June.
Yeah.
So
what they're doing, I guess, is like a very limited event with not a whole lot of actual visitors, but they have, I guess, people live vlogging the show floor.
Okay.
So it's going to be like a semi-online event, more or less. I don't know. Still weird to have a convention in times like these, even if it is limited online only. I understand it's been brought up that they get like better slots for it next year if they book one this year, but
hopefully times are better next year. I still have like a $500 voucher from KLM from my last Murph flight, but I don't know when that expires. Probably it expired or it will expire in the next bunch of weeks.
I mean, shouldn't it expire if it's a refund that they are supposed to pay out in cash.
Yeah,
but I think Lufthansa has refunded one of my flights, and KLM, I think, was the other one. They still have not, even though they are legally required to. But they're just like, we'll refund you after a year. Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's Murph. We'll see how stuff happens. I mean, I don't know what the situation is going to be like in a year. There's no guarantee that the vaccines is still going to be effective in a year, but that's a whole different topic. Like we've talked about the last couple of episodes enough. What we can talk about today, though, is you put it in here as, are we geniuses? I don't know. Do you mean are we geniuses or are we genies, where you get 3 free wishes? I guess it's kind of both, right?
It's kind of both. So that topic popped up, I think 2 weeks ago, Sunday morning on the couch when I was playing with my daughter, and I got an email or a DM or something like that from a guy who said he bought one printer, modded it, improved it all the way, and still didn't work in the end. Bought a second one, also did all of the improvements that people have suggested, and it's still not working. And it's still not working. Can you please take a look at my pictures and basically fix my problems? And here again, even though I shouldn't do that due to my time, but if it's a quick answer, I usually say, okay, that's fine. But at that point, I was on the sofa Sunday morning with my daughter, and I said, okay, sorry, I don't have time for that. Please ask somebody else. And I really had the feeling that that guy was pissed that I refused to offer advice there. And what I ask myself is, why do people think that the last resort, when nobody can answer their questions anymore, is ask one of these YouTubers, ask one of these influencers? They are probably definitely the ones who know everything the best.
Right.
And that's why are we geniuses?
Okay. Let's unwrap this bit by bit, because there are a bunch of things going on at the same time here. Mm-hmm. So the first one is, are we supposed, we as in you and me as influencers, as much as everyone who hates that word, as people on YouTube who make videos about stuff and look smart on YouTube, are we supposed to be the customer support for people, or the helpline? It's a struggle. I mean, it's really a decision you have to make at some point, and there is only one reasonable decision to make for someone who has more than a couple thousand people who are watching the videos and following, and that is, you can't help everyone. You can't be the personal support guy. It's fine. I mean, if you want to spend your time on that, it is fine as far as how much effort you put into it when you're still small, or when you're not getting a dozen emails a week or a day, or I don't know, of people asking you for help. Maybe you can say, okay, I'm gonna help you. Sure, here, let me walk you through this. I've done that too in the early days of my channel. Sure, I've done that too. But the thing that I've started to realize is, when you answer someone in private, be it through a DM or an email or whatever, you're just helping that one person. You're spending your time, that you're putting your time in to help one single person once. And that knowledge and that time that you put in is then lost. Like the next time somebody else has that same problem, they're going to have to ask you again, and you're going to have to write out that same answer again. It's a waste of time, to be honest, if you have the tools to help more people in that time. And the reason I started this YouTube channel is because I saw exactly that. I saw it in Google+, where the same questions would come up, like how do I calibrate my extruder, how do I level my bed, all that. That's what some of my first videos were about, because the idea was, okay, when somebody asked that, hey, I've spent the day or two to produce that video, to put it in a nice compact format where all the questions are answered, and like, I'm going to be able to help way more people that way if I do it once and I do it properly, and I have that public for everyone.
Yeah.
And yeah, at a pretty early stage, for my channel, I decided, okay, I'm not going to be selective about who I don't help. I'm just going to make it public. Hey, my contact, my contacts, my DMs and my emails, they are not for one-on-one support. And I don't want to make those choices. Oh, I'm going to help you, but I'm not going to help you the next day because I'm tired today, and no. If I put knowledge, if I put tips out there, the knowledge thing is the next part we can talk about. If I put tips out there, I want it accessible for everyone, and I don't want it to be exclusive for individual people. Which is also one of the reasons why I don't do like Patreon exclusive videos. I do Patreon exclusive Q&A hangouts, yes, because there's like a it's limited in how many people are pushing those questions on me. But yeah, the content that I produce, the regular content that I produce, I want to be out there for free for everyone to help as many people as possible.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the first part to that, right?
Yeah. And I don't even want to be rude that way, but it's just that at some point you don't have the time anymore to do that support. Yeah, of course, it's also just helping one person and whatever, but yeah.
The thing is also, when you usually what I've seen is, when somebody has a question, they ask you something, you reply in full detail. It doesn't end there. Like, that's not done for you. The next question comes in about, hey, I did this the way you described it and it didn't work. Like, what's this error that I'm seeing? And you become their personal helpline. You cannot do that for you can't treat everyone fairly in that way. You can't answer to everyone, because if you do, like, you'd be spending all your time on helping people one-on-one. So I've put that note out there on the emails that I publish. Hey, this one is if you want to send me products to review. This one is if you're interested in having a sponsorship on the channel. But neither of these are for one-on-one support. I'm sorry, I can't do that. Please use the RepRap forums.
Yeah. This is maybe, just before we come to the next point, an interesting question. I'm usually telling them, if I don't have enough time or if I can't answer the question in 1 or 2 minutes, yeah, please check the Facebook groups. But I kind of have the impression that the support that they're getting there is getting worse and worse every year, because they're getting bigger, those groups, and even the members that have not really a big clue what they're doing, they're still posting, oh yes, that could be that thing. And so the ones who are looking for support, they're getting spammed by ideas and suggestions,
right?
Where 80% are just stupid. So
have you leveled your bed?
Yeah. Well, what's yeah? You just said, okay, you redirect them to the RepRap forums. So
yeah,
is that a source that you would rather suggest if somebody's looking for, I don't know, help on the problem that they're having?
Yeah, I mean that the RepRap forum is pretty good in the level of expertise that is being shared there. We talked about this briefly before we started recording here, but I used to have my own forum, which I ended up shutting down because it was way too much work for not enough engagement there. Like I didn't see people actually getting that much value out of there. It was a huge pain for me to run. But yeah, forums I think are a good solution. Like you said, Facebook, yeah, like everyone is on there. It's kind of an issue with scale, right? The larger a platform gets, the more different approaches and the more Halbwissen gets shared on there.
Yeah.
Though, to be honest, I mean, that's how we started out too, I guess, at some point.
Yeah.
Did we as aggressively pose as people knowing it all? Maybe? I don't know. Is that how you get YouTube clout?
Don't know. Yeah. There are more and more Discord channels popping up, and well, I have been hanging out on the Voron Discord the last bunch of weeks and months. They seem pretty helpful, but I think it's also the reason why that resource is still helpful, because it was still kind of small, it was well moderated, and with this DIY product, you have more people gathering there who I think the possibility that they know what they're doing is higher, as you take a look at the Ender 3 Facebook group.
Yeah. The problem I have with IRC channels like that though is that nothing is permanent there. It's always just like the last couple of hours that he's seeing, be it Slack or Discord or actual IRC or whatever else, even Facebook groups, right? It's always scrolling past. Like you answer something and a couple of days later, it's like, it's all the way at the bottom. Nobody's going to find that anymore. That's why I think forums are still valuable, because those are searchable, those are indexed. People are going to point you to topics that have been discussed in the past if you ask something that's already been answered. So that's
Google finds it.
Google finds it, yeah. I don't think Google finds stuff on Facebook all that well.
No. Well, especially because many groups are not invitation only, but you need to be a member. Yeah.
Yeah, and that does not help at all.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the how do we present information? How do we share information efficiently? The other part to the question that he asked is, why do people think we know everything? Why do they think we are not genies? That was the first part. Why are we geniuses? Or why do they think we are geniuses? Because honestly, I don't feel like I'm a genius in this regard. Of course, yeah, imposter syndrome, whatever. But yeah.
I think we have a lot of knowledge, but I'm 100% sure that there are many people that know way better what they're doing than I am. I think I think you also already said that before. It's the way we need to present ourselves on YouTube. If we would present ourselves as, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I tried that out, and at some point it worked. This would be bad for our public persona. Being this influencer already basically says that you need to present yourself in a way that you know what you're doing.
Yeah. It's so that there's two bits to that. First of all, like you mentioned, it's not societally acceptable that you are somebody who doesn't know their stuff, right? You have to. Sharing failure is not something that is it's starting to get accepted a bit more, but sharing failure is not something that is generally that people first of all are interested in, or something that is here my numbers are here is not something that is respected. Like you're showing your failures, okay, you are a failure. It's something that like scientific papers are also struggling with, because you're only showing successes and stuff that didn't work. Doesn't get published or doesn't get the attention, so people are doomed to repeat those mistakes. So that's the first bit. The other bit is why we're presenting ourselves as people of expertise, and yes, we probably know some of our stuff, but we also have to do the work. We have to do our research and figure stuff out. But why do we present ourselves as buddies who you can ask? And that is something that is just the influencer thing, right? It's just you are encouraged, you are kind of required to survive or to be successful on those platforms, to present yourself as a buddy, as a friend, as somebody who is relatable. As I stumble over my tongue, and that makes me even more relatable, right? It's something that has been cultivated on those platforms so much, and it creates that I mean it's going downhill for a lot of people, where you've got fans showing outside your door and just, hey, can I come in, can I talk to you, can I have a coffee with you? Like, at that level, once you're at that level, like, oh, you've overdone it. But you have to kind of ride that line. If you're just a news presenter, like, that's not how YouTube works. That's not how the what is successful on that platform. So I mean that's something that we've kind of curated ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, yes, viewers, we love you. We do appreciate you, but yeah, it's a very one-sided relationship, right? I'm looking into a camera right now. You're looking into a face. It's like, I don't know you guys. Sorry.
I said that before. I don't want to be rude that way. It's just not working at that point anymore. If you would do personal support for everyone, I wouldn't be able to do YouTube anymore, because I would only be doing supporting strangers on the internet. And I appreciate that, but too often do I find myself, if I get an email, if maybe even the problem interests me myself, that I do like 2 minutes of Googling and I find an answer or an idea. And I ask myself, why do I need to do that? Why I should rather spend my time on things that help more than just one person.
Here's a suggestion for a compromise. I did, I don't know, was it 2 live streams, 3D Senpai, where people would send in their failed prints, their issues with their prints, and I would try to like live diagnose them. I think that was a very successful format. I've not redone it since, because imposter syndrome, and I'm thinking, like, who am I to like give people help on their printers that I've never seen? But that's a format that people seem to like, viewers seem to like. I mean, putting questions like that you get, maybe even have a dedicated email address, putting questions into a publicly available Q&A format, would that be something that you think is worth it?
I think it would, and it's well, the thing what we are doing right now, or what we will be doing in a bit when we are answering questions, is kind of in a similar way that people pose questions and we try to answer them and to discuss them and add value in a way that this is available for not just that one person. and might inspire others to either investigate that even deeper or to just learn from that. Yeah. So yeah, please redo 3D Senpai. I really enjoyed those live streams. I remember them happening, and I even remember that I went through them again afterwards just because I was interested. What were the problems? What were your suggestions? Because that is for me the process to learn something or to understand a problem better. Is if somebody else talks about it, maybe just adds their personal opinion or their 5 cents to that.
I mean, what I'm always afraid of with those sort of help streams is I'm going to give the wrong answer. I'm going to give the wrong suggestion, and it's not going to help them. They're going to come back and say, well, if it made it worse or it didn't work. Like, what kind of crap advice did you give me? And also, I feel like it gets repetitive, maybe?
Yes, but, I think the last stream that you did was more than 2 years ago, so just go ahead. Right.
And I think I'm always underestimating how much repetition you can actually do on YouTube. How much of, redoing the same content, like, okay, Octoprint setup. That's like the one format I think that I redid, that actually, updated. But you see other channels that are just literally doing the same video with like a slightly different take on it every couple of months, and it's like, well, this works for them.
Yeah. So
like we are doing with the podcast. It's the same freaking podcast every time, but you guys still listen to it.
Yeah. The question is just, what would be the best way for people to ask questions? So you were pretty active on Twitter, but besides me and my wife, I basically don't know anybody else in person that uses Twitter. So all of my friends are non-Twitter persons. Email address, YouTube community post or something like that. Dedicated.
Those are a mess.
Okay.
I guess just email, right? I never use Facebook. I don't even check the comments on my video posts. I just push it through Buffer. I don't even log into Facebook anymore.
How dare you?
What do you mean? Facebook is crap. I do not. No, I don't personally use Facebook, and I don't even use Facebook that much for business. So I don't know. For me, Facebook is not really an option. Email, good old email.
Twitter, email. Oh. So
Twitter,
please do it.
What worked for 3D Senpai is just hashtag 3D Senpai, because that is a unique enough hashtag. Though maybe littered with hentai now, but okay.
Demonetized.
Crap.
Demonetized again.
No, apparently it's only the first 30 seconds that you can't swear in YouTube videos. After that, it's fine. Look at what CG Matter is doing.
Okay.
That guy swears like a sailor, and it's fine. Hashtags on Twitter, those seem to work, and they force you to keep your questions short. Like that is something that is pretty useful, because if it's an email, like it's first of all, it's a lot of work to type it out, to type all that stuff out, but it's also a lot of work to read through it. And if you can present your problem in a short segment, Twitter hashtags, I guess that could be pretty cool.
Okay. Yeah, do it again. All right,
at some point.
So are we geniuses? Genius is. I think we know what we're doing, but
the question is, are we at what level are we? Are we really at the level of, if you actually spend time on dealing with 3D printers, you know more than we do? Are we at the level, we actually know a bit more than everyone else? Or are we at the level we know so much that we're already in the imposter syndrome that we think we know nothing? At which stage are we?
If you take the crowd of 3D printing people, in what percentage do you think your knowledge level is? What percentile? I would put myself. Oh, that's hard. I would put myself in the, I guess, 90%
Yeah, 95.
95. Yeah.
The thing, it depends on how you define that group, right? Is it everyone who owns a 3D printer, everyone who's just bought an Ender 3 or a Neptune 2 or something, or is it people that are really enthusiastic about 3D printing?
Yeah.
But yeah, I just by the fact that this is what we do, this is what we spend most of our time on, I guess that makes us somewhat knowledgeable.
We better be in that group, yeah.
But the other thing is also we spend a lot of time, like you said before we started here, we also spend a lot of time on scripting, on editing,
Video
on
recording.
just the production side of things.
Yeah.
I mean, I sometimes feel like having someone take care of all that non 3D printing stuff would make me a much more knowledgeable person. Having someone else deal with the video production side of things, so that I can spend the time on actually digging into 3D printing stuff. Maybe at some point, once I have like actual dedicated offices.
Yeah. All right. I guess that answers it in the end.
Okay. Yeah. Lots of tangents, but good topic.
Last two questions. So, Manacle Wheat was asking. So we recently talked about tea bags made from PLA, and he is asking, does PLA soften in tea water?
Well, yes, it does. But when it's crystallized, it does not.
Yep. So depending on the degree of crystallinity, PLA can be really heat resistant. So if you anneal your PLA in the oven, it can withstand temperatures all the way up to 170 degrees Celsius without deforming while you heating it up again. During the annealing process, it will deform quite a bit. That's the reason why it's not that much used.
Well, hold on there. It is actually very widely used in like plastic cutlery. That is very often PLA, just annealed PLA. Also coffee cups and like those like disposable coffee cups, right? Those are PLA too in a lot of cases.
Some of them, yeah. With the cutlery, I'm not 100% sure. I guess there are several varieties, but the cutlery I got in the past was mostly transparent, and when you anneal PLA and increase the degree of crystallinity, it usually gets opaque.
I mean, there's the white stuff, right?
There's the white stuff, yeah.
So I mean, I'm very certain that at least a certain percentage of that cutlery is actual PLA, that is actual crystallized PLA. So yeah, so even stuff like the coffee stir sticks, PLA, no problem.
Okay. Would be interesting too. I need to check Amazon if I can buy some PLA cutlery and see if it's really crystallized. I really need to build myself a, how's it called, where you heat small quantities of material up and
like a melt flow.
No, not melt flow. You check the amount of energy you need to increase the temperature a certain bit. Where you can check, okay, where is my TG, where is my melting point and stuff like DC.
You've done that in the past with printed samples and just putting a weight on it, right?
Yep. Yeah. And so there are two things. You have the heat transition temperature, which is the point where like your polymer chains get more like movable, and then there is the heat deflection temperature, and there are materials, for example nylon out there, who have a heat transition TG glass transition temperature of like 60 to 80 degrees Celsius, but their heat deflection temperatures
Vickert softening point.
Those are two different things.
Okay.
Vickert softening point is when you have like a tip that you indent in your material, and you measure the temperature at which the indenter got into the material at a specific depth.
So that also depends on the base hardness of the material. So a flexible material is going to have a much lower temperature there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think how the softness changes with temperatures, but those are two different things. Well, anyways, Yeah, people will be screaming at me.
Right. So TG deflection. Yeah, there's just, well, while you looked that up, one more note about TG. Yeah, nylons have a very low TG, but also PEHD has a TG, I think, like negative 80 degrees Celsius or something. Because the way I remember it is it's the point where your material properties change the fastest. Like you look at the slope of temperature versus hardness or something like that, and the point where that slope is the steepest, that's where TG is, more or less. There's also like some chemical, something chemically happening at that not chemically, at the molecular level, there's something happening at TG. But for practical application, TG happens to be like a useful number in some cases, but usually it's not the most universally applicable temperature figure for deciding whether a plastic is usable at that temperature or not.
Yeah.
Did you find what that test is called that you're referring to?
Polymer DSC. There we go. DSC is differential scanning calorimetry. Calorimetry.
Okay, so that's exactly calories, energy.
Yeah, energy thing.
So what does that do? What's the differential scanning part of that? I get the calories part, but
I can tell you next time. Basically, you heat a sample. You heat. I think you heat two samples up, or you heat one polymer sample up and one just like standard sample, which is a piece of metal, and with the same amount of energy, and you monitor, I think, the temperatures, and when the polymer changes its degree of or crystallinity or melts, you need melting enthalpy, for example. So you need more energy to put into the system for the increase in temperature, and you can nicely plot that and say, okay, this is the point where the glass transition temperature is, and where the melting point, for example, is, and so way more stuff.
So you supply basically a constant amount of power to your melting pot, and you look at how quickly the temperature rises.
I guess in simple terms, that's could be it.
And in some temperature regions, that energy absorbed is just larger, so your temperature rises less quickly. Okay. Physics. Maybe we're just gonna have more details next time about that.
And I guess that's I think it for today.
A bit of a cliffhanger for the next episode. Haha. So yeah. Whew.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcatcher. So I guess we should point out, this isn't just a YouTube only or podcast only. If you prefer video stuff, you can watch us on YouTube. If you prefer audio only, we are available on all the major podcast platforms. Thanks, Stefan, for taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you all for. I'm just repeating you. If you want to support us, Patreon. Links below. You can support Stefan, or you can support me, or both, if you're into that. We will see you all next time. Goodbye.
Bye.